So today we're just going to welcome some new people, make any foundation announcements, just get people caught up on a couple small things, and then we're gonna take the suggestion we had last week, which was to begin some breakout conversations to brainstorm how we're going to handle the fall. And as a staff, we came up with 6 initial topics, and we're going to walk through those, and then when we come back together as a group, we'll talk about some next steps, and we'll just sort of feel our way along here. These initial breakouts aren't meant to be the only thing we're going to do, just a way to kickstart this process. So before we go there, I'm just going to ask some of the foundation staff if they have any immediate updates they want to share. Ari, do you have anything you want to put out to the group?
Yeah, sorry, I lost connection for a minute, so I just joined back on. I don't know what I missed, sorry.
All you missed was I gave a quick summary of the agenda. So if you could just share any updates on the SLI follow-up or anything else on your mind, just you can do that here.
Sure, yeah. So in terms of SLI follow-up, our team has been working to put all the videos on YouTube, and then they're going to be in playlist, and then the links for those videos are going to be in the Bonner Learning community next to the listing for that session. And please be patient with us on that, because we're all working remotely. Folks have different types of computers and internet speeds, and it takes a little while to get it all sorted out and edited. And we're editing those videos in case there were things recorded, like the beginning or end, that we don't really want on the public YouTube channel. So it takes a little while. So, but most of them are done, and you'll be able to see them, and we'll let you know and announce those. We're also working on a variety of just thank yous and whatnot. So you'll be receiving those if you haven't yet via email and handwritten and whatnot. So again, we're working remotely, things take us a little longer. But we were really appreciative of everyone and thankful for your participation in the meeting. It felt like we received some wonderful feedback about the meeting. So just want to give a shout out again to all of you, both our team, Bonner team. I know that Bobby sent something out with last week's email, but just really strong shout out to all of our team, as well as to all of you for getting folks there, participating, making it feel like a real community experience. I know that we were happy that we felt that we were able to get some of that, even though we were not in person together. But we do look forward to the time that we can be in person again, and miss you all very much. So I will say, in terms of the other things I'm working on, and you should receive from me if you are part of the Community Engaged Learning Initiative, an update that both also gives some recognition to all the folks who did workshop or presented in the Community Engaged Learning Fair, as well as over the months of March and April and May, our team had worked on several webinars that are in the Bonner Learning community, including like moving all of the faculty development curriculum into that space and adding some new lesson plans that address remote community engaged learning. So those have been private, but they're making them public, as well as some other new capacity building webinars, including one that Chaita wrote on like developing an online course and on grant writing, and some of and one Liz wrote on brochures, and one I wrote on training development. So this email will explain these things so that then you can see it and kind of know what's there and what's coming. And then I know that Bobby is currently working on some materials for an upcoming board meeting that will include some clarification on the funds that are going to be available for this Community Engaged Learning Initiative grants for next year, as well as a new Racial Justice Community Fund. The Racial Justice Community Fund is going to be new. It's money on top of what endowed have in their other junior, senior funds or existing funds. So once we know what that budget amount is, my hope is to begin working on a variety of an RFP that looks at some best practices. And I know Arthur is also interested in connecting that work with alumni and Bonner Connect, and some ability for us to really look at possible giving funds that maybe that you all apply for as staff or your students apply for in partnership for doing some organizing work and real work, like where you are and with other organizations that might contribute to justice. So I'll say that. I know that, for example, something that I'm working on is getting in touch with some other networks. We have some old friends, like a woman named Claudia Horowitz, who's been organizing right now around moving money to Black, Indigenous, and people of color organizations from white donors that heretofore have not done so in the past. So that's an example. Or talking about like some folks that are alumni, even that are doing organizing with Black Lives Matter, et cetera. So I hope that's some good context, but and I hope that we can move that work forward in a significant way over the coming months.
Thank you. Liz, anything you want to add? Summer interns, any of you want to add anything? Oh, Liz, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I'm excited about everything that Ari mentioned, that the work that we're going to be doing moving forward. And we have the interns working on some really exciting projects around capacity building, like Ari mentioned, that those will be online for students to access and use like when they need it. And then as well as like graduate school partnerships, that's going to be another project this summer. So it'll be exciting to be developing more of those. So yeah, I'm excited about stuff we have going on.
Yeah, we're gonna the interns are all gonna the goal right now is to develop 2 step-by-step guides on a specific capacity building activity, and to make those available in the online format in terms of self-paced and readings and stuff like that. And then to work with you all to figure out how those get rolled out with your students. So there's a lot to talk about there as the summer moves on. And
maybe Arthur, sorry if I were.
Yeah, go ahead. So yeah, Arthur, I'll ask you next to just give me updates for the.
I was on mute. So we're going to be working on virtual orientation stuff. So just orientation resources, because everyone don't know what's going to be going on in the fall. So if you all have like things that you're planning with your students coming this fall, that's going to be virtual too. I'd like to gather those resources, put them together for the entire network. We're going to have the summer interns working with me on that too. And we, my hope is to have you all reach out to your alumni and have them be part of your orientation process this fall too, just because it's going to be virtual. So, well, if you are going to have it virtually too, I'm going to find ways for you to incorporate your alumni into your orientation process so that the incoming bonders can know that we have a huge alumni network and they can lean on them for support too.
Arthur, I think you're the first person either who has a automotive poster on their wall, or you're at the dealer getting your car work done.
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good. Nice job. Thank you. Well, I think that sort of covers our big updates. You'll be hearing more as we go along. But just summer interns real quick. Robert, Allie, Grace, anybody want to jump in and say something? Okay, you'll have plenty of time in a few minutes. So let me just go back to the breakouts, and this is going to be slightly awkward because it's going to take a couple minutes to get you all in there. But here are the 6 categories. Bonner orientation. So how are you going to plan orientation in the fall, particularly for your brand new students, who's primarily the focus? Weekly Bonner meetings, what might those look like? Those are class-based, all Bonner, special meetings that you might hold. The big one, remote service strategies. What does that look like for folks? What do they begin to think about there? we know some folks may be in-person service. So there's some questions people were raising around liability, how to approach that for both remote and in-person service. Faculty community-engaged learning. So how are we going to work with your faculty on courses and other activities like that might be taking place? And then finally, how are you engaging your student leaders, senior interns, and Bono leadership team members in this work? So that means we're going to have 6 breakout rooms. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the rooms, and then I think, and then I'm going to go around and ask you which one you want to go to, and I'm going to move you there. Well, listen, I hope that was a little useful just to get started. And just in the couple minutes left to us, number one, people could use the chat, maybe even right now before we get off, and say what you think a good next step would be based on the conversations you were in. How might we facilitate additional conversation? Do we have pre-scheduled breakouts and do it that way in this kind of setting? Do people, we organize 5 or 6 of these on different dates and times, let people just go in there who want to go into multiple ones of the conversation? That's totally fine to do. So just use the chat to think about what's the best way for us to help facilitate this next setup, the follow-up to just initial conversation last week and today, if you would. And I'm just going to call on a couple people to tell me some one nugget they heard in their breakout conversation. Actually, Kevin, since you're still on not muted, I'll ask you to just share something from the breakout you were in.
Okay. Well, I don't want to say misery loves company, but it was reassuring to know that other schools were also waiting to hear, when they were returning and the format of returning. I heard some great ideas as far as the Barna orientation. I want to say, I believe Tiffany said that she will be present and actually do a video to show the students the actual physical space when things are safe to return. Also heard of getting together a panel of our site supervisors and allowing them to engage the incoming students.
Oh, interesting.
Those are some good ideas that I've heard and that we want to also try to duplicate to kind of make it as personal as possible, despite the distance.
I'll tell you one quick idea that I heard, and I think it's been written up somewhere. We have to go find it. There was a class where the students were meant to do given a street-by-street tour of a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And by the community activist. And so what the community activists did is they used Google Street View maps. Mm-hmm. And they're all on the call and they all have Google, they have the map thing, and they took them and they could look right and left and sort of see the neighborhood. It was apparently worked out really well. I'm going to go find that right up and see if I can have that shared, because that might be something to do for
that's cool, because we're doing, so some of our summer service sites is, or one of our roles is the community asset mapping. So that's actually a good idea to actually bring the community leaders into doing that. So, pretty cool.
I'll just do 2 more here real quick. Val, were you in a different group or were you in the same orientation one? You were the same one?
Same one as Kevin, yeah.
Okay, so somebody waved their hand. Somebody waved their hand. It was in one of the other groups. You were all in orientation? No, you weren't. Olivia, were you in orientation too at Rhodes? What were you in?
I was in the second breakout session for class meetings.
Yeah, so just to, not a whole report back, but just a highlight or 2.
I think what struck me, similarly, we all just kind of talked for a long time about how we don't know what the answers are. But what struck me in our conversation was that I think everybody had something to say in relation to class meetings about the purpose being less curriculum focused and more sense of belonging, sense of community focused. And, we don't know how that's going to look with space, with limited numbers, but it's just interesting how your perspective or your thoughts on a program and the important things can change given circumstances. So I think we all agreed that was really important, that students need to feel connected and that curriculum and kind of the typical way we've been doing meetings can change a little bit.
Yeah, nice. All right, I'll do one more. The third group was remote service strategies. Somebody waved their hand who was in there. Arlette? Just give us a highlight or two.
Okay. Well, we talked about how we are brainstorming on options of what students can do. And also we talked about perhaps going national as an option because there are other opportunities that can contribute to remote service. We talked about research, the possibility of doing research on what's happening right now so that this data could be available for the future once we get in person, perhaps. Professor mentioned the number of people incarcerated due to protests, things like that, that kind of data that's not being collected. And we also talked about how difficult it's going to be tracking if the service is being done or not remotely.
Yeah. I have 40 something students interning with me this summer, and I get the hour things to approve, and I just check. What am I going to do? You know? Now, if I never see them on the Zoom call and they never email me and whatever, that's something else. But you know, well, it looks like we have a bunch of comments there, which is really great. So keep those coming in terms of follow up. My hunch is that, and I think I saw one of these, is that we should have a series of specific sessions or Zoom calls on each of the, maybe these 6 topics, and maybe there's others that get proposed. And so what we can do is we can put out the topics, get people to, some obvious ones to start with, and then get people to react to some of the other categories and sort of basically vote with your feet. And on those calls, we can structure them a little bit so we can generate a bunch of ideas and begin to get them typed up and circulated for folks who weren't able to be on the call. And maybe do this over the next, maybe, you know, this, you know how the summer is. You think it's going to be really slow, but it's pretty busy. And with people who now have orientation happen a week early, whatever plans you had are even more accelerated than they were before. So,
So
we'll
Bobby,
do that kind of follow up as next steps. Let me just turn to Ari and to say if there's any follow up or any
just
you want to say, Ari?
I know I had a great conversation with Erin O'Hanlon, and one thing she asked was about our new directors meeting. I wanted to invite Rachita if she wants to say anything about what's happening with that. But she's going to be leading the process and you know, using her deep knowledge of curriculum and instruction to move that meeting into a virtual format. So, Rachita, if you wanted to jump
go ahead, Rachita.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we will be having that meeting online. So we are rethinking how to present the material so that it's engaging. And I know everyone has Zoom fatigue, so we'll pace it out, and we are working on that. We'll get more updates soon.
Yeah. And just on that one, you should know that despite of, or perhaps because of what's happening, the number of school inquiries, schools interested in the Bonner program, has just continued very steadily. So that orientation for new staff is also an orientation, as many of you know, for prospective schools. And I think a lot of schools aren't hiring new people, a lot of freezes across the board. But there are a bunch of new schools that are interested, and there may be some new folks or new-ish folks on your staff who would attend. I think the general thought is to space that over a whole week with a morning and afternoon session of sort of more limited time with some worksheets and stuff to work through. But there's a lot to work on that. And Rachita, are we thinking about doing that at the end of July?
I think it's first week of August.
Okay, so somewhere in that ballpark. Just depends on the calendar. So we'll look at that. Well, this is great, guys. We're a little bit over our time. We like to stay on time. So I'm going to stop recording now, and you guys can stay on longer. I don't have a music to play today. Does anybody have a song we want to play as we leave? Jesse, Scott, you're smiling. No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. So much pressure.
We should put pressure on Jonathan. He's the newest. Jonathan, sometimes we end with a song and people sort of wander off. Do you have one queued up?
I don't have one queued up.
Okay, next time.
Why don't you hum a few bars of Brother, Can You Spare a Dime?
I can't even hum on tune, so I'll be into that. All right, everybody, I'm not going to shut it down immediately, but I'm going to say goodbye and let everybody wander off. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.